The snow was falling so thick that Anya could unsee her own hands when she stretched them out in front of her face. The wind screamed across the frozen tundra with such violence that it felt like the earth itself was trying to erase her from existence. Temperature, 50 below zero. Visibility, 0. Chance of survival, the kind of odds no sane person would take. But Anya Pavlova wasn't walking through this whiteout storm because she was brave. She was walking because 6 miles behind her, in a cabin barely holding back the cold, her 8-year-old grandson was dying. And 6 miles ahead, if she could find it, if she didn't freeze first, if the storm didn't swallow her whole, was the only thing that could save him. This is the story of a 72-year-old Yakut grandmother who did what no one else would do, what no one else could do, and what everyone said was impossible. This is the story of a walk through hell, frozen solid. Anya had lived in the Sakha Republic of Siberia her entire life. She knew cold the way a sailor knows the sea, intimately, respectfully, and with the understanding that it could kill you without warning or remorse. She'd survived winters that would make an Alaskan trapper weep. She'd seen temperatures drop so low that spit froze before it hit the ground, where metal would burn your skin faster than fire, where breathing too deeply could frost your lungs from the inside out. But even by Yakut standards, this storm was a monster. It had rolled in 3 days earlier, on a Tuesday afternoon in late January, when the pale sun was already surrendering to the long darkness. The radio crackled with warnings from Yakutsk, the regional capital some 200 miles away. Roads were closing, flights were grounded, emergency services were suspending operations. The message was clear: shelter in place, conserve your fuel, and pray the storm passes before your supplies run out. Anya wasn't particularly religious, but she did pray that first night, not for herself, but for Dmitri, her grandson. The boy had come to live with her 4 years earlier, after his parents died in a car accident on the ice roads that connected their remote village to civilization. Dmitri was all she had left of her daughter, and she loved him with a fierce, protective intensity that had only grown stronger with time. He was a bright child, curious and resilient, with his mother's dark eyes and his father's quick smile. He loved mathematics and wolves and the stories Anya told him about their Yakut ancestors who had survived in this brutal landscape for thousands of years. But on that Tuesday night, as the storm began to rage, Dmitri developed a fever. At first, Anya wasn't worried. Children got sick. She made him tea with herbs she'd gathered the previous summer, wrapped him in furs, and monitored his temperature with the calm efficiency of someone who'd raised 4 children of her own. By Wednesday morning, though, the fever hadn't broken. By Wednesday afternoon, it was climbing. By Wednesday night, Dmitri was delirious, calling out for his mother, his small body shaking with chills despite the fire Anya kept burning in the stove. She tried everything she knew: cold compresses, willow bark tea for the fever, prayers to gods she wasn't sure she believed in anymore. Nothing worked. By Thursday morning, Dmitri's temperature was dangerously high, and he was struggling to breathe. Anya recognized the symptoms. She'd seen them before, decades ago, in her own son: pneumonia. Without antibiotics, children could die from it, and die quickly. Their cabin had no phone. The nearest clinic was in Tomter, a small settlement 6 miles to the east. But 6 miles in Siberia might as well be 600 when a storm like this was raging. The radio still crackled with warnings: wind speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour, whiteout conditions, frostbite likely in less than 10 minutes of exposure. The emergency services weren't coming. No one was coming. If Dmitri was going to survive, Anya would have to go get help herself. She spent Thursday trying to convince herself there was another way. Maybe the storm would break. Maybe a miracle would happen. Maybe Dmitri's body would fight off the infection on its own. But by Thursday evening, when the boy's lips started turning blue and his breathing became shallow and labored, Anya knew she was out of time. She knelt beside his bed, smoothed his sweat-soaked hair back from his forehead, and made him a promise. "I'm going to get you medicine," she whispered. "I'm going to fix this. You hold on, my little wolf. You hold on for babushka." Dmitri's eyes flickered open for just a moment, unfocused and glassy with fever. "Don't go, Grandma," he mumbled. "The storm, .. Double quotes, the storm doesn't scare me," Anya lied. "Nothing scares me when it comes to you." She kissed his forehead, burning hot against her lips, and stood up. She had work to do. Preparing for a journey like this wasn't simple. Anya had to assume she'd be walking through the storm for hours, possibly longer if she got disoriented or injured. She dressed in layers: thermal underwear, wool pants, a thick sweater, and over all of it, her heavy reindeer hide coat that fell to her knees. On her feet went 3 pairs of socks and felt boots lined with fur. On her hands, inner gloves made of rabbit skin and outer mittens that could stop even Siberian cold. Around her face, she wrapped a scarf until only her eyes were visible, and over her head went a fur hat with flaps that covered her ears. She packed a small bag with matches wrapped in waterproof cloth, dried meat, a thermos of hot tea, and, most importantly, a compass. In a whiteout, even someone who knew the land as well as she did could get turned around and wander in circles until they collapsed. The compass would keep her oriented, assuming she could see it, assuming her hands didn't freeze too badly to hold it. Before she left, she stoked the fire in the stove as high as it would go and piled every blanket and fur she owned onto Dmitri's bed. She left water within his reach, though she doubted he was conscious enough to drink it. She said another prayer, this one more desperate than the last. And then, with the storm howling like 10,000 demons outside her door, Anya stepped into the darkness. The cold hit her like a physical force. It wasn't just cold, it was a presence, aggressive and malevolent, seeking any exposed skin to destroy. Within seconds, the moisture in her scarf began to freeze from her breath. Her eyelashes collected ice crystals. The wind didn't just blow, it attacked, shoving her sideways, trying to knock her down, filling her ears with a roar so loud she couldn't hear her own thoughts. And the snow, dear God, the snow. It didn't fall so much as fly horizontally, billions of tiny ice particles traveling at highway speeds, scouring any exposed surface. Anya held up one mittened hand in front of her face and couldn't see it. This was a true whiteout, the kind that made earth and sky indistinguishable, that erased landmarks and horizons and any sense of direction. She pulled out her compass. In the dancing beam of her flashlight, which barely penetrated 2 feet into the swirling white, she found East Tomta was east 6 miles east. She started walking. Each step was a battle. The snow was deep in some places. Thigh-high, the wind constantly tried to push her off course. After what felt like an hour but her watch told her was only 15 minutes, Anya's face had gone numb. The cold was seeping through her layers, finding the microscopic gaps in her defenses. Her toes were starting to ache, which was actually good. When they stopped aching and went numb, that's when she'd need to worry about frostbite. She thought about Dmitri to keep herself moving. She pictured his smile, the way he laughed when she tickled him, the serious expression he got when he was working on a math problem. She remembered teaching him to ice fish last winter, how patient he'd been, how excited when he finally caught his first fish. She remembered the stories he'd write in his school notebook, elaborate fantasies about space explorers and time travelers, always with happy endings. He deserved a happy ending. The storm showed no mercy. There were moments when the wind gusted so violently that Anya had to stop and crouch low to avoid being knocked over. There were stretches where the snow was so deep she had to high-step through it like a soldier in slow motion, each step requiring enormous effort. Her thighs burned. Her lungs burned from breathing the viciously cold air even through her scarf. Sweat formed under her layers and then immediately began to freeze against her skin. She had to check her compass every few minutes, and each time she did, she had to remove one mitten to manipulate the device. Even those few seconds of exposure were dangerous. Her fingers went from cold to painful to frighteningly numb each time. She'd flex them inside her inner gloves, trying to force blood back into them, terrified of losing the dexterity she'd need to keep checking her direction. Time became meaningless. There was only the next step, the next compass check, the next battle with the wind. Anya's world shrank to a tiny sphere of swirling white, the crunch of snow under her boots, the howl of the storm. She couldn't see the stars for guidance. She couldn't see the ground clearly enough to recognize landmarks. She could only trust her compass and her will to keep moving. At some point her watch said she'd been walking for 90 minutes, but it felt like days. Anya realized she was in serious trouble. Her toes had gone numb, not aching anymore, just absent. She couldn't feel them at all. Her fingers weren't much better. The cold was winning, creeping deeper into her core despite all her layers and all her preparation. Her thoughts were starting to slow down, becoming sluggish. She recognized hypothermia setting in. The rational part of her brain, the part that had kept her alive for 72 years in one of the harshest environments on Earth, told her to turn back, to save herself. Dmitri was probably already gone. Children that sick didn't last long. If she kept pushing forward, she'd die out here, and then they'd both be gone. It would be sensible to turn back. Practical, logical. But Anya Pavlova hadn't raised 4 children, buried a husband and daughter, and survived 7 decades of Yakut winters by always being practical. She'd survived by being stubborn, by being tougher than the circumstances that tried to break her, by refusing to give up even when giving up was the smart thing to do. She thought about her daughter's face when they placed baby Dmitri in her arms for the first time. The pure joy, the overwhelming love. And she thought about the promise she'd made to her daughter at her funeral, standing in the snow while the coffin was lowered into the frozen ground. "I'll take care of him. I swear it. No matter what. No matter what," Anya said aloud, her voice barely audible over the storm. She took another step, and another. The hallucinations started around the 2.5-hour mark. Anya saw her husband walking beside her, offering his arm like they were strolling through Yakutsk on a summer evening. She saw her daughter as a child, running ahead through the snow, laughing. She saw Dmitri healthy, smiling, waving at her from somewhere in the swirling white. She knew these visions weren't real, that they were her brain misfiring as hypothermia progressed, but they were comforting nonetheless. She wasn't alone out here. She fell twice. The first time, she managed to catch herself on her hands and push back up, though the impact sent a shock of pain through her wrists. The second time, she went down hard on her side, and for several long seconds, she just lay there in the snow, exhausted beyond measure. The storm raged over her. The snow was already beginning to cover her. It would be so easy to just rest here, just for a minute. Just close her eyes. Get up, said a voice. Her mother's voice, sharp and commanding, the way it had been when Anya was a girl. Get up, Anya Pavlova, you're not done yet. Anya opened her eyes. There was no one there, of course, just the storm. But the voice had been so clear, so real. She rolled onto her hands and knees, then forced herself back to standing. Her legs shook with the effort. Every muscle in her body screamed for rest. But she took another step, and another. She'd lost track of how long she'd been walking when she saw the light. At first, she thought it was another hallucination, a cruel trick of her dying brain. But as she stumbled forward, the light remained, steady and real, growing brighter. It was a window, a building, civilization. Anya wanted to run toward it, but her body would only move in slow motion now. Each step was a conscious effort, a negotiation with legs that didn't want to function anymore. The building resolved itself into a familiar shape. The Tomter Clinic, a small, sturdy structure that served the medical needs of several settlements in the area. She'd been there before, years ago, when Dmitri needed stitches after falling off a swing. The final 50 feet to the door were the longest of her life. She stumbled, caught herself, stumbled again. Her vision was narrowing, darkening at the edges. Her heartbeat sounded strange in her ears, too slow. But the door was right there. Just a few more steps, just a few more. Anya's mittened hand hit the door, and she slumped against it, no longer able to hold herself upright. She tried to knock but couldn't make her arm work properly. She tried to call out, but her voice was a whisper, lost in the storm. The world was going dark. After everything, after the whole impossible journey, she was going to die right here on the doorstep, and Dmitri would die alone in their cabin, and it would all be for nothing. The door opened. Anya fell forward into warmth and light, and several voices cried out in shock. Hands caught her before she hit the floor. She tried to explain about Dmitri, about the pneumonia, about the antibiotics he needed, but her mouth wouldn't form words properly. Everything was confused, a jumble of voices and movement, and blessed warmth that hurt almost as much as the cold had. Someone was removing her outer layers. Someone else was wrapping her in blankets. A thermometer appeared. She heard worried muttering about her core temperature. Through it all, she kept trying to say her grandson's name, kept trying to make them understand, but her words came out slurred and nonsensical. Finally, a face resolved itself in front of her. A young man, maybe 30, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Dr. Volkov, she remembered him. He'd treated Dmitri's stitches. Anya Pavlova, he said slowly, clearly, his hands on her shoulders. We're taking care of you. But you have to tell me, why did you walk through this storm, with what felt like the last of her strength? Anya forced the words out. Dmitri, sick, pneumonia, home, needs medicine, please. She saw understanding dawn on the doctor's face, saw him stand and start giving orders to the nurses, saw him disappear from her view. She tried to stay conscious, tried to hear what was happening, but the darkness was pulling her down now, insistent and irresistible. She'd done what she came to do. She'd delivered the message. The rest was out of her hands. Anya woke to the sound of a machine beeping steadily beside her. For a confused moment, she didn't know where she was. The ceiling above her was white and institutional, lit by fluorescent lights. Her body felt strange, heavy and distant. She tried to sit up and immediately gasped as pain shot through every muscle. A hand gently pressed her back down. Easy, said Dr. Volkov's voice. You've been through an ordeal. You need to rest. Memory came flooding back. The storm, the walk, Dmitri. Anya's eyes flew wide open, and she grabbed the doctor's wrist with surprising strength for someone so recently at death's door. My grandson, she croaked, her throat raw. Did you? He? Dr. Volkov smiled. It was a genuine smile, warm and reassuring. He's alive, Anya Pavlova. We sent a team out on snowmobiles as soon as the wind died down enough to make it safe. It took them 3 hours to reach your cabin, but they found him. They brought him back here. We've been treating him with antibiotics for the past 18 hours. 18 hours. Anya's mind struggled with the timeline. How long have I been? You've been unconscious for almost a full day, the doctor said gently. You had severe hypothermia, frostbite on 3 toes and 2 fingers, and you were severely dehydrated. Honestly, Mrs. Pavlova, you should be dead. What you did, walking 6 miles through that storm at your age, in those conditions. I've never heard of anyone surviving such a thing. Can I see him? Anya asked, ignoring everything else. Can I see Dmitri? The doctor hesitated, then nodded, briefly. He's in the next room sleeping, but I'll warn you, he doesn't look good yet. It will take time for the antibiotics to fully work. They helped her into a wheelchair. Her legs were unready to support her weight. Yetan rolled her to the next room, and there, in a narrow hospital bed, covered in blankets and connected to an IV drip, was Dmitri. His face was pale, and his breathing was assisted by an oxygen mask, but his chest rose and fell with steady rhythm. He was alive. Anya felt tears, actual tears, which she hadn't shed in years, streaming down her weathered face. She wheeled herself as close to the bed as she could manage and took her grandson's hand in her own bandaged one. His skin was warm, not fevered, just warm, normal living. "I kept my promise, little wolf," she whispered. "I kept my promise," as if hearing her voice, even in sleep. Dmitri's fingers twitched slightly in her grasp. His eyes didn't open, but his grip tightened just a fraction. A tiny signal that traveled from his unconscious mind to his body, an acknowledgement that she was there. Anya sat with him for an hour, until Dr. Volkov insisted she return to her own bed to rest and heal over the next few days. As the storm finally blew itself out, and the world beyond the clinic windows returned to the normal frozen landscape of Yakut winter, both grandmother and grandson slowly recovered. Dmitri woke up on the second day, confused and weak but alive. His first words were to ask for his grandmother. When they told him she was in the next room recovering, he cried with relief. When they told him what she'd done, that she'd walked 6 miles through the worst storm in 20 years to save him, he didn't believe them at first. No one could do that. It was impossible. But Anya's frostbitten fingers and toes were proof. The doctor's account was proof. The fact that she'd arrived at the clinic's doorstep barely alive, in conditions that would have killed most people in 30 minutes, was proof. She visited him that evening, walking this time with assistance but walking nonetheless, refusing the wheelchair. Dmitri stared at her with wide eyes as she settled into the chair beside his bed. "Grandma," he said, his voice still weak from illness. "Dr. Volkov said you walked through the storm for me." "Of course I did," Anya said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "What else would I do? You could have died." Tears were forming in his eyes. "You almost did die." Anya reached out and touched his face gently. "Dmitri, my precious boy, let me tell you something about our people. We Yakut have survived in this land for thousands of years because we understand something important. There are things worth dying for. Family is one of them. Love is one of them. You are both. So yes, I walked through that storm, and I would do it again." "Don't," Dmitri whispered, grabbing her hand. "Don't ever do something like that again. I need you. I can't lose you too." "Then we have an agreement," Anya said firmly. "You stay healthy, and I'll stay safe. Deal?" Dmitri nodded, wiping his eyes. "Deal." They stayed in the clinic for another week, both of them regaining strength. The nurses told Anya stories that had spread through Tomter about her walk. People were calling it miraculous. The journalists from Yakutsk wanted to come interview her. The regional governor sent a commendation. Anya dismissed it all as nonsense. She hadn't done anything special, she insisted. Any grandmother would have done the same. But the people who lived in that harsh land, who understood what 60 below cold and whiteout conditions meant, who knew that survival sometimes hung on the slimmest threads of luck and willpower, they knew better. What Anya had done was extraordinary. It was the kind of story that would be told for generations, a testament to the strength of human love and the lengths to which a person will go for family. When they finally returned home, transported by snowmobile, since the cabin was still unreachable by road, Anya found that neighbors from surrounding settlements had visited in their absence. There was firewood stacked outside, more than she'd had before. There were supplies inside, food, medical supplies, batteries, fuel. The people of the region took care of their own, especially heroes. Life slowly returned to normal, or as normal as life could be in the Sakha Republic in the dead of winter. Dmitri went back to school, where he was greeted as a celebrity, the boy whose grandmother had walked through death to save him. Anya went back to her routines, though she moved a bit slower now, and she had to be careful with her fingers and toes, which were healing but would always bear the scars of frostbite. On clear nights, when the aurora borealis danced across the sky in ribbons of green and purple, Anya would stand outside their cabin with Dmitri and tell him stories of their ancestors. She told him about the first Yakut people who had come to this land, fleeing conflicts and seeking freedom, who had learned to survive where survival seemed impossible. She told him that resilience was their inheritance, that strength was in their blood. "But you have to promise me something," she said one night, as they watched the lights shimmer overhead. "Promise me that if you ever have children, and if they ever have children, you'll tell them this story. Not because I'm special, but because it's important to remember what people are capable of when they love each other. Do you understand?" Dmitri nodded solemnly. "I promise, babushka. I'll tell them about the night you walked through a whiteout storm to keep me alive. I'll tell them that love is stronger than any storm." Anya smiled and pulled him close, wrapping him in her heavy coat. Together they stood in the cold, two survivors, two Yakut people carrying on the traditions of their ancestors. Proof that the human spirit can endure anything when it has a reason to fight. The stars wheeled overhead in the vast Siberian sky, ancient and cold and beautiful, bearing witness to one grandmother's impossible journey and the unbreakable bond between generations. The storm had passed. The winter would continue, as it always did, and life, precious and fragile and worth fighting for, would go on. Sometimes the most powerful stories are UN fiction. They read testaments to what real people can do when pushed to the absolute limit. Anya's journey reminds us that heroism isn't about capes and superpowers. It's about ordinary people making extraordinary choices because someone they love needs them. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the people in your own life who would walk through storms for you, Leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your own stories of sacrifice and love, or just let us know you are here. And if you want more stories that celebrate the resilience of the human spirit, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss what we share next. Sometimes we all need reminders of what we're capable of when it matters most.